Hello everyone. Today I'm talking about front-end development with Google Apps Script. I was reading about this new project that Google has, this App Maker project that is going to be used to really spruce up the way that you can develop tools with Google Apps Script by giving you this cool front-end UI it's got a drag and drop editor, one-click publishing, and then data models, meaning the way that you interact with the the back end of your application. I'm not going to talk too much about those because I don't have access to this yet. I requested access, but I'm just a lonely one lonely developer sitting at his computer, and I don't have a full G Suite for Business domain. So I have to wait along with everybody else and make do with HTML and CSS as my development tools, which is fine because I really want to get better at understanding the way that HTML and CSS can be used in design. And what I do, instead of using this text editor that's provided by AppScript itself, this is a good tool. I can do my function and type everything out. You can indent quickly with control, and things like that are good. However, it's not a fully functional text editor the way that Sublime Text or Atom are. Really great tools, but they're hard to use for AppScript. So what I tend to do is I use this website called Codepen. And what Codepen does, it allows you to have a window here that shows you exactly, close my developer console, it's got this window here on the left that shows you exactly what your code looks like, and you can see all three kind of facets of your code in separate windows. Your HTML separate than CSS, and then your JavaScript. You can even export this to GitHub, or I think you can download it into a zip. However, what we're going to be doing is just kind of doing a quick little layout and then copying it over into Google Apps Script. So what I'm going to do is create this student data portal. The first thing I generally do is I create a container that's going to house my two columns. I'm going to column, and you see how quickly I did that just with simple CSS selectors and then tab. I'm going to actually add something here. I'm going to call this first column, and I'm going to call this second column. And what that will allow me to do is I can then have a list here of a list of students, and I'm going to have, just as sample 3 students, we'll do Jordan Ray, we're going to do Bruce Wayne, and then we'll have Clark Kent, because obviously I would be in a class with those guys. So over here I'm going to actually have a student, I'll make this an H1 header element, and we'll call this add student. Okay. So you'll see that header ended up right below the student list, but obviously I wanted it to be a first column and second column. Well, I've got this HTML laid out, pretty basic HTML. Nothing shocking there, surprising. If you've heard of HTML, then you probably understand what this code does. But with CSS, now I want to target this and make this look a little bit better. I'm going to, right off the bat, I'm going to create a container, and I'm going to change this to Flex Display. Flexbox is one of the newer things with CSS3. And it's really making its way around, like all the browsers I think support Flexbox now. If your browser doesn't support Flexbox, you need to update your computer. So got the containers there, and then I want to target the columns. I gave both of those divs the class of column, and I want to actually call it flex1. And what that means is 1 is kind of the basis, and what it means is they're gonna resize with the size of the window, right? And they're both gonna take up an equal amount of room in that container div. So if I'm looking at it on like a cell phone, it's still going to be 2 columns. And if I'm looking at it on a regular computer, it'll still be 2 equal columns. Well, I've got that laid out. Let me finish adding this. Let me create this form over here. And instead of an action, I want to handle this with JavaScript. So I'm going to create an onSubmit event, and we'll call it add students. Pass in the event, and in the form, I want to create a block, and this is going to have a text area in it, and the name is going to be students. Do you see how quickly I'm doing this? As I hit tab, these things are popping up. It's giving me some standard standard things that you would see in a form, right? These nothing here is when I hit button tab. Call this add students, and I want to make this type submit. Now, very simple HTML. Okay, sorry, my internet went out there for a second, so it wasn't live updating in this view anymore. So, what I did, I think, while that was gone. If you double click on these various panes, it'll give you a little bit more room to see what you're doing. So when I look at this HTML, I've got a form with an onSubmit. Let me give myself some more room. OnSubmit, and then the button Add Students. Down here in the JavaScript, I'm going to go ahead and create this Add Students function. And in the Add Students parameter, I'm going to pass in that event. I'm just going to call it E down here. And we're going to prevent default so that it doesn't refresh the page when you click on the button. If I don't put that in, you'll see that flicker. It's because the page is refreshing. But we don't want that. We want to handle this with JavaScript. So I'm going to prevent the default page refresh action. And I'm going to get the variable students from that event parameter also, e.target.students, because I gave the text area the name students. So down here on that event parameter, I'm going to be able to get that, and then I want to get the value. Then I also want to split that value on the new line. What that'll do is then give me an array of students. If I type in, say I type in Jordan, Ray, and then I type in Bill Simmons, podcast I listen to, and click Add Students, it's going to give me an array, and then I can add them to this list over here, no problem. Now, what we're going to do now is keep styling this out a little bit. The functionality, the JavaScript part of it, I'll wait until I move everything over here, but I actually want this to look a little bit better, and with CSS we can do just that. So I kind of want the background. Let's just make the whole container have a background color of gray. I'm going to take away, you see this little border here? I don't like that. Let's get that margin out of there. Whoops, gotta add a semicolon. Ooh, is it padding? I forget how we can push that right up. Now, one of the other great tools about using the Chrome browser, when you hit Control-Shift-J to open a developer window, you can start to get a sense of what you're doing. Oh, that's on the HTML element. Duh. Okay, I'm going to take this away. And we're going to just add HTML and body. We're going to target those with CSS, and I'm going to do margin 0 and padding 0. And that gets rid of that stuff there. Okay, perfect. So now I can keep styling. So I just typed in gray there, but let's say you want something more specific. With Google, great thing you can do with Google is just search for color picker, and it'll give you a great color picker to get the hash values of various colors here. So I just want a background, maybe kind of this pastel-y green. I kind of like that. Yeah, sure, why not? There we go. And you can just copy that right over here into your CSS, and there we go. We've got a cool little background. Now, maybe I want these columns to have a padding level of, let's say to the top 0, the left and the right. Let's say I want 8 pixels to the left and the right. And each column I want to change the background color to white. I think this actually has to be margin. Yep, there we go. Let's move it down 16 pixels. Okay, let's give it more of a margin. That looks better. And we should still be responsive. Okay. Okay, good. And then inside those divs, we can add a padding. Let's move it in 8 pixels. And that way you see a little bit of white space there. Those 16 might be better. That's better. There's also another CSS property here that allows you see how when you add these margins and the paddings, everything kind of shifts around? Well, that's because with CSS, it relies on box sizing and border box. And that way, when we resize this stuff, like if I change this to 24, it does it without pushing the boundaries of the box out. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better. I want the container to be, let's make this the height, the whole page. Oops, sorry. There we go. HTML body's got to be height 100%. That's not correct. Is it min height? Can't remember exactly how I can make this container take up the whole page, because I want the green to be everywhere, right? So to do that, you'll see this is where using Codepen really helps, because your changes happen right as you're doing them. You can see that update where, as if you were using this code editor, you would have to then open in another tab, your kind of dev panel. You'd have to tab over, refresh that page, which takes a second because it's just not as fast as it is on Codepen, and then view your changes. But here, everything is right here on the page. So let me figure out how to get this container to be, let's try min height, 100%. Ah, there we go. Okay. And that's actually taking the columns all the way to the bottom too. But that's fine for right now. I don't mind that. Now let's target the things that are inside. So let's say the form. I want that to be, the form, and then I want to call block text area, and I want to make that width 100%. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And I want to target the unordered list here. And I want to center those and remove those bullet points. So let's try to find that. So in the unordered list, I want to text align center, and I want to line, list style, and we're going to call that none. Take away those. Let's put a header element in the first column too, and we're going to call this student list. And I'm going to remove these little placeholders. So we've just got the empty unordered list here. And so removing this unordered list, because when I use the JavaScript, I actually want to then populate that unordered list. However, there's one other little styling thing I want to do here. I want to make these columns, like the background color is white. I don't like that hard edge there. So there's another CSS attribute. We can say border radius, and we'll just make that 3 pixels. And that kind of rounds it a little bit. Let's up that to, let's say 8 pixels. All right, yeah, that's a little bit better. And you know what? I don't like the min height 100%. So I'm going to take this background color off the container, and I'm going to put that on the body of the page. So that is going to be the whole thing there. Okay. So this is a good little layout. Oh, you know what else I like to do? I like to make the button look better. So let's target that button. And you can, of course, target any of these elements with CSS or with classes or IDs, but this is a very simple page, simple demonstration. So I'm going to make the button, let's put some padding in there. I'm kind of using these, let's see, 8 pixels, 16 pixels. Okay, perfect. Let's do background, and let's make it maybe a darker version of this green. Okay. Let's change the text color to white. I like that. And let's I think that's fine. That looks a little bit better. We can also change the hover, and we can just reverse that, make the background white and the color this #272D20, and that way when we hover over it, we're just switching the values, and then it's got a little little cool thing to it. You can add transitions. Let's all 0.5 seconds, and that way it kind of fades a little bit. Let's make that happen quicker. Nobody likes waiting all day for their web page to animate itself. So that is a pretty good start, I think. That's enough for this basic example. So how do we take this and put this over into our web app here? So what I'm going to do, let me save this, and I'm going to, just like I did in one of my previous videos talking about this Google GitHub Assistant extension for Chrome, I'm going to pull in from this AppScript boilerplate from the web app branch. Let me pull in some code, and really simple. There's not much to it. You can type this out yourself. But what's the point of coding if you're gonna, what's the point of learning to make things easier if you're gonna just type the same stuff all the time? So we've got our do get, and then I've got a simple index. In the head you've got your styles, the body is your HTML elements, and then a little script window down here. So I'm just going to bring that stuff over. HTML, copy that right in here. Perfect. Now, I do like to keep my indentations nice and clean, and this script editor doesn't do that automatically, so you got to pay attention to those things. So then in the CSS, I'm going to copy that. We're just going to put it right into here. I'm going to indent it over. Perfect. And then I've got some JavaScript. I'm just going to put it below my main. And we're going to add one little thing to it, because I want to then send the students array to the AppScript code window. So google.script.run, and we're going to run add students, and I'm going to pass in that students variable. Now the idea being, I've got this, I'll have to create this in a minute, but I'm also going to actually run the with, let me scroll that down so you can see a little bit better, with success handler, and that's going to take a function. We're sending a response back, and I want to just log that response. So save all of that, go back to the code, and create that function, add students. We passed in the students variable. I'm going to do stuff with the students variable, and then I'm going to return all students. Actually, I'll just call it return students for now. Return students. If I save that code there, I've got a working web application. It doesn't do much, but that's fine. All I wanted to show you was how to use Codepen to bring over that HTML and CSS to make your make the front end look a little bit better. You can, of course, do all of that stuff in this script editor. However, I just prefer Codepen because it's happening real time. So, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you liked what you saw, click that subscribe button, and stay tuned for more videos. How do you what's the development flow that you like in when you're making your web apps? Let me know. I love hearing from people, and I hope to talk to you soon. All right, cheers everyone.